In a stunning turn of events, the Supreme Court of the United Kingdom has delivered a judgment so explosive that it has shaken the very foundations of British politics. Prime Minister Keir Starmer, once seen as the steady hand of Labour, now stands accused of deliberate deception, financial misconduct, and betrayal of public trust. With a single ruling, the court has ordered him to step down, making history as the first time in modern Britain that the judiciary has directly demanded the resignation of a sitting Prime Minister. The verdict is not only devastating for Starmer, but catastrophic for the political establishment. Across the nation, outrage spreads like wildfire, protests swell outside Westminster, and the opposition senses blood in the water. The question on everyone's mind is simple but seismic. Is this the end of Keir Starmer's political career? The Supreme Court's 126-page judgment landed like a bombshell in Westminster. Chief Justice Dame Souka, known for her precise and unforgiving approach, did not hold back in her words. She accused the Prime Minister of systematic dishonesty, describing his conduct as a grave breach of ministerial integrity and a betrayal of the principles of transparency. For the people of Britain, already weary after years of political scandals, this ruling feels less like a legal document and more like a declaration of war against corruption at the highest level. It is a moment unlike any other in British history, one where the power of the judiciary has risen to directly confront the authority of the executive. The court's message was blunt: Keir Starmer cannot remain in office. At the centre of this political earthquake lies a 124,000 discrepancy. The sale of a North London property owned by Starmer's family. What should have been a routine financial declaration has now turned into a national scandal. The property, sold far below its market value, triggered suspicion among auditors who flagged the transaction as deliberate undervaluation, designed to conceal financial gain. Instead of declaring the profit, as required by parliamentary rules, Starmer omitted it from the official register of interests. This was no oversight, according to the court, it was intentional. The judgment stated plainly that the omission could not reasonably be explained as error, but was part of a larger pattern of concealment. For a Prime Minister who built his career on law and order, the irony is devastating. But this property scandal was only the beginning. The judgment went further, exposing a tangled web of undisclosed gifts, offshore connections, and concealed donations. A luxury £39,000 gift from a prominent legal donor remained hidden for more than a year. Documents revealed links to shell companies in Jersey and the Cayman Islands, raising suspicions of offshore dealings. Even Starmer's travel history has come under fire, with lavish foreign trips disguised as research visits and paid for by undisclosed benefactors. The court concluded that these repeated failures to declare financial benefits formed a consistent strategy of deception designed to mislead Parliament and the public. In one scathing passage, the ruling declared, "The Prime Minister has not simply failed in oversight, he has systematically undermined the ethical standards of his office." Inside Downing Street, panic is evident. Advisors and communication staff are working frantically, but no amount of press statements can soften the blow of a direct judicial order. For Parliament, the chaos is unrelenting. The Conservative Party has wasted no time in calling for a vote of no confidence, while Reform UK, led by Nigel Farage, has gone further, demanding an immediate general election. Farage declared, "Starmer has lost all moral right to lead. The people cannot be governed by a man who defies the very laws he once upheld." Even within Labour's own ranks, fractures are appearing. Reports suggest that senior shadow ministers are quietly preparing to resign if Starmer does not voluntarily step aside, fearing that his stubbornness could drag the entire party into ruin. Public reaction has been nothing short of explosive. In London, thousands gathered outside Parliament Square within hours of the ruling, waving placards that read, "Resign now, and no one above the law." Social media erupted with fury as hashtags like #StarmerResign, #Supreme Court Verdict, and #PM surged across Twitter and TikTok. Across the nation, editorial boards from both left and right united in their condemnation. The Guardian labelled it a constitutional reckoning, while The Telegraph described it as a political implosion without precedent. Even the BBC, known for measured neutrality, ran a headline that stunned viewers: "Supreme Court orders Prime Minister to resign." Yet Starmer remained silent. No apology, no press conference, and no resignation. This silence has only inflamed the crisis. Insiders suggest that Starmer is locked in intense discussions with legal advisors, searching for a constitutional loophole that could challenge the court's authority. Some aides argue that the judiciary has overstepped by intruding into executive power, but legal experts are united in their rejection of this claim. Professor Ella Hartley of Oxford University stated, "The court acted fully within its jurisdiction. Financial misconduct and undeclared interests directly violate parliamentary integrity, and the judiciary is empowered to demand corrective action. If Starmer dares to defy the order, it will not only deepen the scandal, but plunge the nation into a constitutional standoff unlike anything Britain has ever faced." The implications of this crisis are staggering. MI5 and the Cabinet Office have already launched parallel investigations into whether any of the undisclosed donations to Starmer's circle originated from foreign sources. If proven, this would not merely be a political scandal, but a national security threat, raising questions about foreign influence at the heart of British politics. Intelligence officers are combing through encrypted communications and financial records, determined to trace every suspicious pound that crossed into Starmer's orbit. The mere suggestion that Britain's Prime Minister may have been compromised by international actors is enough to shake the nation's global credibility. Already, foreign governments are watching closely, questioning whether Britain's leadership can withstand the storm. For now, the eyes of the world are fixed on Westminster. Britain stands at a crossroads, its Prime Minister cornered by a damning verdict, his party in open revolt, and the public baying for accountability. This is no ordinary political scandal, it is a test of democracy itself. As Parliament braces for the coming days, one thing has become undeniable. Keir Starmer's grip on power has been fatally weakened, and the countdown to his downfall has begun. The fallout from the Supreme Court's ruling has spiraled into a full-scale constitutional crisis, leaving the United Kingdom in uncharted waters. For the first time in living memory, a sitting Prime Minister has been legally compelled to resign by the judiciary, and the consequences are unfolding with breathtaking speed. Parliament is in disarray. MPs rush between emergency meetings, cabinet ministers whisper in corridors, and civil servants scramble to prepare contingency plans for a government that may soon collapse. The ruling did not just target Starmer, it challenged the very stability of the system he leads. The nation now watches in disbelief as Britain's political establishment confronts its greatest reckoning in decades. The judgment itself reads like a catalogue of misconduct, carefully detailing a series of financial irregularities that painted a devastating picture of systematic corruption. It begins with the $124,000 discrepancy in the property sale, the spark that ignited this firestorm, before expanding into a wider network of concealed assets, undisclosed gifts, and suspicious financial ties. Offshore links to Jersey and the Cayman Islands were highlighted as particularly troubling, suggesting a deliberate attempt to obscure the origins of certain funds. The court emphasized that these were not isolated oversights, but deliberate omissions, part of a consistent pattern designed to shield the Prime Minister from scrutiny. In the starkest language possible, Chief Justice Dame Suka declared, "This office demands absolute transparency. Instead, we have witnessed calculated secrecy." Those words now echo through the halls of Westminster as MPs grapple with their implications. Labour's leadership, once united under Starmer's disciplined image, is now crumbling. Several high-ranking figures privately admit that defending him is impossible. Angela Rayner, the deputy leader, is said to be quietly positioning herself for an interim role should Starmer be forced out. Others within the party have gone further, warning that his refusal to resign could destroy Labour's credibility for a generation. Leaked WhatsApp messages from within Labour's inner circle reveal panic and confusion, with one MP writing, "If he doesn't go, we all go down with him." Party officials, already struggling to control the fallout, now face the terrifying prospect of mass resignations. At least a dozen Labour MPs are rumoured to be considering crossing the floor to join opposition benches, while others have reportedly opened talks with Reform UK and the Liberal Democrats. For a party that only months ago looked poised for electoral dominance, this is nothing short of political catastrophe. Meanwhile, the opposition has seized the moment with ruthless efficiency. Rishi Sunak stood in Parliament and delivered a blistering attack, declaring that the rule of law is not optional and no leader stands above it. His demand for an immediate general election was met with thunderous applause from Conservative MPs. Nigel Farage, never one to miss a political opening, has become the loudest voice calling for Starmer's resignation. In a fiery televised address, Farage warned, If this Prime Minister refuses to step aside, then the people themselves will remove him. This is not his country to defy, it is the people's. His words, once dismissed as populist rhetoric, now resonate with an anxious and angry public. Reform UK is already surging in the polls, feeding on the chaos engulfing Labour. What was once seen as a fringe movement now stands on the verge of becoming a major political force. The public anger is unmistakable. Outside Westminster, tens of thousands have flooded the streets, their chants demanding justice reverberating through the capital. Resign now and clean politics for Britain have become rallying cries. Across the country, protests have spread from London to Manchester, Glasgow and Cardiff. In Manchester, demonstrators staged a symbolic People's Trial, complete with a mock judge and jury, sentencing Starmer in the court of public opinion. Videos of these protests have gone viral, amassing millions of views within hours. On social media, hashtags like #StarmerScandal, PM Resign, and #Justice for Britain dominate the digital conversation. The sense of betrayal runs deep, especially among those who once saw Starmer as a man of integrity. For many Britons, this scandal has confirmed their darkest suspicions, that even the highest office in the land can be corrupted. The international response has been equally damning. The United States issued a carefully worded statement urging adherence to democratic norms while expressing concern over Britain's political instability. European leaders, alarmed by the chaos in Westminster, have begun stalling ongoing trade negotiations until the UK demonstrates political clarity. Foreign investors, already jittery, are withdrawing funds, sending shockwaves through financial markets. Britain, once seen as a model of legal and political stability, now appears fragile and exposed. The scandal has not only damaged Starmer's reputation, but has also dealt a devastating blow to Britain's standing on the world stage. Allies are watching with unease, enemies with satisfaction. Inside Number 10, silence reigns. Starmer has yet to face the cameras, and every hour without a statement fuels more speculation. Some aides insist he is preparing to address the nation, but others say he remains defiant, refusing to accept the legitimacy of the court's ruling. His silence has created a vacuum that his opponents are all too willing to fill. Civil servants whisper of drafting contingency plans for a caretaker government, something unseen in modern British politics. The Cabinet Office, normally removed from partisan battles, has reportedly begun discreet discussions about managing an abrupt transfer of power. The machinery of government is preparing for the possibility that Britain may wake up in days, or even hours, without a sitting Prime Minister. The deeper question now looms. What happens if Starmer refuses to resign? Legal scholars are nearly unanimous in their view. There is no constitutional ground for him to defy the court. Lord David Newburger, former President of the Supreme Court, stated bluntly, "A Prime Minister who refuses to comply with a lawful order forfeits his legitimacy to govern." His words cut to the heart of the crisis. If Starmer resists, Britain will enter an unprecedented confrontation between the judiciary and the executive, a standoff that could shatter the nation's constitutional framework. This is the nightmare scenario many fear. A defiant Prime Minister clinging to power against the explicit demand of the highest court. Such a move would ignite political chaos on a scale never before seen in Britain's modern democracy. The pressure is mounting and time is running out. Labour is fracturing, the opposition is circling, the public is furious, and the world is watching. Keir Starmer stands at the edge of a precipice, his legacy collapsing beneath him. Every passing moment without action only deepens the crisis and strengthens the sense of inevitability. The once unshakable leader is now cornered, his silence deafening, his downfall looming. The nation waits, but patience is running out. Britain's political reckoning has arrived, and Keir Starmer has nowhere left to hide. As the ruling of the Supreme Court echoed across the nation, the pressure upon Keir Starmer mounted to an unbearable level. What had begun as a quiet storm behind the walls of Westminster now turned into a full-scale political earthquake. The demand for his resignation was no longer a matter of political rivalry, but one of national integrity. Members of Parliament, many of whom had once sworn loyalty to him, found themselves forced to break ranks. They knew that aligning with a leader condemned by the Supreme Court would drag them into the abyss of public fury. The ruling was not a mere judgment, it was a death sentence for Starmer's political career. Every news outlet, every online platform, and every political commentator carried the same headline: Supreme Court orders Starmer to resign. This was unprecedented, and the shock spread far beyond the UK, shaking international confidence in Britain's leadership. Foreign leaders, already cautious in their dealings with the Labour government, began to distance themselves as uncertainty gripped the corridors of power. Within the Labour Party itself, chaos reigned. High-ranking officials scrambled to distance themselves from the scandal, releasing carefully worded statements, desperately trying to salvage their reputations. Some openly criticised Starmer, declaring that his position was untenable and that the Labour movement must now cleanse itself to survive. Others tried to remain neutral, but the silence was equally damning. Behind closed doors, Labour's headquarters turned into a battlefield of whispers, backstabbing, and frantic plotting. Who would replace him? Who would step forward to lead a party that was now fractured beyond recognition? Names circulated, but no one wanted to be the first to grasp the poisoned chalice. Starmer, once hailed as the figure who would restore Labour's credibility, now stood as the man who had destroyed it with his own hands. The fall was not just personal, it threatened to tear apart the entire foundation of his party. Outside of Parliament, the people made their voices heard louder than ever. Massive protests erupted across major cities, with chants demanding Starmer's immediate resignation. The Supreme Court ruling had emboldened the people, giving them the legitimacy to demand change in the most direct way possible. They carried banners declaring "Justice has spoken" and "Resign now," while thousands marched to Downing Street. The anger was palpable, the fury uncontrollable, and the atmosphere felt revolutionary. For the first time in decades, Britain's political system looked as though it was on the brink of collapse. Commentators warned that if Starmer refused to step down quickly, the country could descend into a deeper crisis. The longer he clung to power, the more explosive the situation became. His opponents, both inside and outside Parliament, were sharpening their knives, waiting for the perfect moment to deliver the final blow. Meanwhile, in the Conservative camp, jubilation was hard to contain. For months they had been in disarray, struggling to mount a credible opposition. But now, with Labour collapsing from within, the Tories smelled blood. Senior Conservative figures wasted no time in framing this as proof that Labour could never be trusted with power. They declared that Britain's stability could only be restored if Starmer resigned immediately and if Labour was forced into another election. Nigel Farage and Richard Tice of Reform UK also seized the moment, declaring this judgment as a victory for the British people against corruption and deception. Farage went further, warning that Starmer's disgrace was only the beginning, that the establishment had been exposed and that real change was on the horizon. This rhetoric resonated with millions who already felt betrayed by mainstream politics. Reform UK's rise, once seen as a distant threat, now surged forward with unstoppable momentum. But what about Starmer himself? As the ruling tore his career apart, he found himself cornered, humiliated, and unable to defend against the tidal wave of backlash. Insiders revealed that his inner circle had urged him to consider stepping down before the situation worsened. Yet, Starmer hesitated. His refusal to go quietly only fueled the fury against him. The Supreme Court had spoken, but Starmer clung to the last remnants of power, hoping for a miracle that would never come. This defiance painted him not as a strong leader, but as a desperate man, blinded by ambition and unwilling to face reality. The British people saw him as clinging on while the country burned around him, and every hour of delay deepened the sense of betrayal. It became clear that his days were numbered, but how he would choose to leave, gracefully or in disgrace, was the only question left unanswered.